Alrighty guys, this is snugsonblitz and I'm back with another video for you today. We're going to watch me play this tank, the WZ-120, which many people might consider one of the tougher tanks in Tier 9 to play. Will it make my list of the top 5 hardest tanks to play? You're just going to have to wait and see. Remember, when I say hardest tanks to play, I'm referring to the overall contribution to your team. That means damage, spotting, blocking shots, causing trouble for the enemy, etc., etc. I've narrowed it down to 5 tanks, and you might not agree with my list, but I think they're tanks that not great players will struggle mightily with. I very rarely see these tanks at the top of the leaderboard, but I mean, if they're played well, any tank can be effective. I just don't think these tanks are easy to be effective in. So anyway, let's take a look at this game where I'm going to basically flank around and cause all sorts of trouble for the enemy team, which I don't usually do. I think I play it pretty well. But you're here to find out about my top 5 hardest tanks to play, so let's start off with my number 5. I'm giving it to the Type 61. Now personally, I really like this tank. The gun is freaking amazing. It's even better than the STB's gun in Tier 10. The problem is it doesn't have the best arm at all. So you really have to play this as a sniper. It's an effective sniper, it's a mobile sniper, but it's not a medium tank in the normal sense of how you should play mediums. So that's where people get in trouble. They push in too aggressively and they get ripped apart because it's got not much armor at all to speak of. So be aware when you play that tank to play it from distance to begin with. I think you'll be fine. Coming in at number 4, I'm going with the T-54E1. I personally have never had a problem with this tank. I've always done decently well with it, and those 3 shells can be a real problem for enemy teams, especially near the end of the battle. However, a lot of players can't wait till the end of the battle. They push in too aggressively, they'll fire their 3 shells and then be at the mercy of the enemy tanks, and that's when they get in trouble. It would be better if this tank had HE, but sadly it doesn't. Maybe one day Wargaming will give it HE and make it a little bit more interesting, in my opinion. But it is what it is. It's my number 4 tank. Coming in at number 3, I can't explain it, but I'm giving it to the T-55A. Now the T-54 is a solid Tier 9 tank. At one point, it was the Tier 9 tank. But the T-55A has never really been able to do as well as the T-54. I can't really explain why. It's pretty much a copy-paste, but most players seem to do quite poorly in this tank compared to even its doppelganger, the T-54. So, yeah. If you've got any ideas why people struggle with this tank compared to its compatriot, let me know. I'm curious. But it is what it is. I'm putting it at number 3. I very rarely see these tanks do quite well on the battlefield. And that's a shame, because it's a decently fun tank. Coming in at number 2, I've given it to the M46 Patton. Now, why have I put this so low? I actually like this tank. It's got great spotting, it's decently mobile, it can do a little bit of everything on the battlefield. The problem is it doesn't have a good turret really, so unlike a Pershing, which can peek up and take a few hits, this turret most of the time won't be able to do that. The gun is solid, the mobility is solid, but yeah, it doesn't seem to perform that well on the battlefield. So yeah, it's just got a weaker gun than the Type 61 and the T-54, in my opinion. But at the top of the list, the tank I find the hardest for most people to play is the Leopard PTA. Yeah, maybe this is unsurprising to you, but this tank, it's hard to play. It doesn't have the best gun depression, it doesn't have great turret, it can get hit by pretty much every tank on the battlefield. The DPM is great, the pen is great, it's accurate, but the problem is it can just get wrecked by pretty much any tank that pushes on it, and you're not going to get any bounces. So, what do you think of my list? Do you agree with it? Let me know your top 5 hardest tanks to play in Tier 9. Remember, it doesn't mean that they're not good tanks, it just means I think they need a little bit more effort to do well than some other tanks that you just walk in and be like, la la la, and just rip right through teams. These tanks need a little bit more effort and a little bit more cunning to do well. That's all I got for you. I'll see you tomorrow with my top 5 hardest tier 10 tanks. Join me then. Snugs on Blitz.